Is that me?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's going to be good.
It's time for Bingo is Life. The podcast. Back in the saddle. I've been gone, but I wasn't in jail.
Welcome back, Jay.
Yay!
Yay.
Good to hear. No jail.
I wasn't in jail for long.
That's
Over here we have the Howdy Show brothers on opposite sides of the round table. Michael and Christopher. The one, the only, Dan Easley.
It turns out you have to boil pasta.
You do. Over here, my dear friend and comrade in arms, Mom Shackles.
Hey, I like to crunch on ramen.
Oh, crunch on ramen.
You know you're in a bad situation when you can't wait for the ramen to cook. Gotta eat it down. We have two. We have someone in the Silent Dave and the Silent Aaron show.
Yeah, right.
This evening.
We have another power couple.
Yeah.
okay.
That's right.
I love that that little girl that was bowling tonight.
Yeah,
she was like an
tried.
enigma. Her, you couldn't tell what she was thinking.
Yeah, right.
So cute.
There's not a lot of thought that goes into the thinking.
What?
Exactly.
Bowling,
when you're bowling.
bowling being a part of the entertainment extravaganza here at Ruby's every Tuesday evening. Bingo is Live, not the podcast, but the bingo. How was the bingo?
It was good.
The bingo was good.
It was good.
The bingo was great. Now that girl you're talking about at the very end, I thought she showed such bravery. She was so little. I don't know how old she was, but she was amazing. She got up there and she rolled that ball, went right into the gutter.
Yep.
Everyone was with her.
Yeah,
And you know how hard it is to hit a pin.
Oh, absolutely.
And then when she hit that pin, I knew. I said,
Yeah, it was
this place
beautiful.
is going to explode, and it did. And it was so much fun. And boy, I wish you were here.
You should have been
cheers.
here. That's to everyone, right? Okay.
And you could be
that
here
was
Tuesdays at 7:30. It's 7:30 every Tuesday.
Yes.
Don't miss it. It was my first time. Yeah.
Really?
first time. Yeah,
Oh,
really. It was
interesting.
absolutely entertaining. Really, nonstop.
That child could have been like totally zen, or she could have been having all kinds of traumatic turmoil going
Yeah, she's
on.
never
No.
going to forget this forever.
I think she's going to be fine.
or she'll forget it in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
when
well,
she
that's true.
turns 18, she is going to truck it over to the tattoo parlor and she's getting some duck pins
Duck pins. Yeah.
emblazoned upon her skin.
Oh my gosh.
I hope so. Yes.
It's gonna be great.
Speaking of emblazoning things on your skin, do you guys want to hear another
I would love to.
unexpected notion from Dan Easley?
Bring it.
Adapt yourself to those around you. There's no need to show your ability before everyone. Employ no more force than is necessary. Let there be no unnecessary expenditure, either of knowledge or of power. The skillful falconer only flies enough birds to serve for the chase. If there is too much displayed today, there will be nothing to show tomorrow. Always have some novelty with which to dazzle. To show something fresh each day keeps expectation alive and conceals the limits of capacity.
That was another unexpected notion from Dan Easley,
I'm
read
Dan
out of the
Easley.
tiniest dang book in the world.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I drew it.
That's exactly what that girl was thinking as she bowled the bowling ball this evening.
Is that the art of war?
Balthazar Gracian, a Spanish Jesuit priest, wrote that in 1637.
Yeah.
enough.
It
The
applies.
art of worldly wisdom.
It applies to bingo. That's all.
It really does. Folks,
Conceals limitations.
our special guest this evening. Hi. I'm so
Hey.
excited to introduce them to you all. So, true story. I met Ingrid when a tree in my yard fell on her house.
Oh, my
It was an act of
Wow.
God that
Divine
we met.
intervention.
That's right.
It was divine that we met, and then I don't know how many years later, but at some point Ben started hanging around, and then they got married. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ben Lambert and Ingrid De Sanctis. Thanks for being here, you guys.
Thanks for having.
Dude, you guys are amazing. So, true. Yes, the tree fell in your house. It's
true.
I did not. I met Ingrid, and then I was like, "Yeah, I write plays," and she's like, "I write plays too." And then I found out she actually writes.
Ah, yeah.
True.
Yeah, it's amazing. And Ben is also a player. Do you write plays?
I don't.
Ben directs and acts. I've seen Ben perform at
Yes.
Shenandoah. Shakespeare.
Yeah, down at American.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff. All good stuff. All good.
Wasn't
stuff.
it when the tree fell on the house that you realized that in the state of Virginia
I have to pay for it.
you have to pay
I think what really
Thanks,
happened,
Virginia.
The Old
the
Dominion.
tree, it was the next morning, and I think I called you all for the
Yes,
first time, and I was
Virginia.
like, "Hey,
There is a tree clause.
that's right. I think you need to pay for the tree that fell on my house." And then we were like, no, I paid for the tree.
They
that
called it an act of
fell
God.
on my house. That's right.
It was a beautiful white
It was gorgeous. the
tree,
Yeah.
and it was gorgeous and huge, and it was a
Yeah, it
really
was.
bad ice storm
Unbelievable.
that caused that to happen.
And look at us now.
I know.
Oh.
Oh, we get to play music in your backyard.
Yeah,
Love it.
that's right.
That's right. We
Yeah, it's
have.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, life is actually being your neighbor has been one of the joys of living in the neighborhood.
feel the
Love having
same.
you guys as the neighbors.
Oh my gosh.
It's
the-
fantastic.
Yep.
Anyways, you all can't be the neighbors, so let's see. So I'll throw out a couple different things. When Melody was released, I don't know how old she was. She was small. Ingrid comes up to us and is like, "We're looking for a little girl to be in a play at JMU," and that was the first time we really started interacting with each other, I would
Yes.
say. And who was the director?
Dennis Beck.
Dennis Beck.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
and
she
he
was
was-
adorable.
Oh
She
my gosh.
Was
so
that
good.
the Everyman play?
Everybody?
Everybody?
Yeah.
Everybody, yeah.
Yeah.
And she had a few lines.
Yeah.
did.
That was such a good joke.
Oh my gosh. It was such a good
Oh, and she
show.
was darling. Yeah. Yeah.
And then just recently, I saw your one-woman show
That's right.
at EMU.
The things I forgot.
The things I
Yes.
forgot, and you've taken that and toured a little bit with that.
I have toured a little bit with that. I mean, yeah, I took it. I went to Canada to a theater there. I was in Ohio, and then I did it twice at EMU. So it's sort of the scariest thing I've ever done in my entire life, to do an 80-minute solo piece. Jason.
Holy, yeah.
Yeah, and right.
But it's incredibly
Yeah.
personal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Highly suggest. Are you
awesome.
doing it again?
highly suggested.
I mean, well, I hope so. You do all that work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Ben was the director on that piece, so
Oh, I
we
didn't know
collaborated.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like our first time we collaborated that way, which was really awesome.
And
Do you
Ben,
want to talk about what it was?
Talk about it. Well, I can. Do you want to know a little bit about it?
yeah, bring it.
So
Love
yeah,
to.
here we go. So yeah, I've been a playwright a long time, and I've had a really wild story in my own personal life, where my dad was a Pentecostal preacher, which I grew up on the Jersey Shore in the Jesus movement. A wild, beautiful, complicated journey, and in my personal, our family life, it's sort of all this scandal was uncovered by, that I hate to say it, those stories that happen with pastors that get involved with women. It blew up my family. And for many, many years, it's interesting. It took me a long time to tell my own story. And I would tell people about the way I grew up because it really shaped who I am, about how I think flawed we are as people and how beautiful we are as people. And so I wrote a play called Stained Glass that was produced at James Madison University that I sort of, it wasn't just about me, but it was based on this character named Jules, and I could sort of hide through this character. And it was a story about her going home after her father died and talking to 4 women that she thought were involved with her father, and all these other characters like Cinderella and Pinocchio, and these imaginary characters were in it. And then I taught a solo performance class at James Madison University, and I thought, I dared myself. Every once in a while I creatively dare myself to do something impossible. And I thought, yes, I'll write a solo. And I got a grant, and then I was doing it and thinking, oh no, I'm doing it. But it really was,
Oh no,
I
I'm
know,
doing it.
I'm doing it. And suddenly you have a show scheduled and you're like, I'm really
Yeah.
doing it. And so it really was sort of a creative. When you're alone on stage, it's terrifying. So I ended up having 100 pairs of shoes around me and chairs and 20 yards of silk fabric, trying to see how interesting can I be. But it was deeply personal. And it was the first time in my life that I have really told my story from my point of view and went through the whole thing and sort of, I love stories that are about transformation, and that when people go through really difficult things and can come out the other side. So I've written a lot of plays about other people, and it was the first time I had to go, I think I've transcended that. And so it took me probably 40 years to write that play and be able to tell that story without it, you know what I mean, impacting me. So it was cool to have been along the way in that journey. It was wild. And I'm sure I wasn't always easy to direct. I was a little bit stressed out, but it was fun. Yeah.
Tell us about directing your significant other in a play, because I don't think I could do that either way.
Yeah, it was a trip. I mean, I think one of the things that I was just thinking about that, like as you were talking, that you can kind of, you go into the rehearsals sort of imagining that this rapport that you have in your life and the relationship that you have and all of that, you can kind of, you've built all this goodwill, and you can then just kind of go in and, you know, be quite direct and honest and sort of, you don't have to do all of the extra stuff that you might have to do if you're working with an actor that you don't know. But then I discovered that's not really true. Really, I mean, it's so vulnerable to be an actor, and no matter what relationship you have with, you know, what relationship Ingrid and I had sort of outside of the rehearsal room, you sort of had, or I found that we had to sort of build the whole trust thing in a totally different context and way, and it took, I think, a lot of time.
Yeah, and I also think there's sort of there's a crisis I had throughout the process of feeling like self-indulgent. You know, I don't know when it was, like, there's something I think about actors that are very selfless, though people think they're full of themselves, but they're actually putting themselves out there looking like a fool. And I'm in awe of actors. I teach actors, I direct actors. Ben is an incredible actor, but there's something amazing of that. But when I was up there doing it all about me, I had to sort of get my head in the right place, that it's about me, but it's not about me. I'm giving something away to somebody else. So I think throughout the process, I would stop and go, is this interesting? Who cares? You know what I mean? Like, am I really going to do this thing about how weird my family was, or how weird my upbringing was? And I think that was probably the hardest process to kind of get over. And I think that I was thankful for someone that knew me that well, that watched me really struggle with, is this even interesting, and how do you do that? And then you get over yourself, and you sort of know that every time I look at all of you around this table, every time you are bold enough to give me your story and let me hold it and see what I learned from it, it's incredible to do that.
Yeah. You're the only person that can tell that story.
That's right.
From that perspective.
And the more the more specific, the more universal. When I tell mine, it opens up yours. But it was weird for me sometimes to just be like, "Oh my God, am I really talking about this for 80 minutes?"
How's that work from a mechanical point of view? Because if you wrote it and you're directing it, and then you have some idea about how it should be said, and do you sometimes say, "Well, maybe you should be treating that line differently"? Does that ever come up, or how do you feel as the actor? Because ego gets in your way, so that's the first the battle. Like, you know, you have your idea, but
you were totally, as an actor, Ingrid was kind of completely open. It was like, you know, however, whatever ideas we had, you were totally willing to try any of them, I would say. It was when we were kind of talking about does this section of the play work, or should it be here, or should we move it to somewhere else? Because one of the things about Ingrid is you have you solicit a lot of input from people in your life. So there's a lot of voices about the work that you're doing that you're kind of grappling with all the time.
Yeah, I'm sort of, you know, I'm interested in that. You know, it's like when I write a play, I like to read it with so many different people. Come over and I'll make you food. I just want to hear it again and again and again and what you think. But I do think what you're asking about, when you write it and it is you and you're doing it, you can't help but get an idea in your head. And so I knew I needed a really good director that could almost outsmart me and come up with a better idea. And periodically he would, you know, it's like, whoa, wow. And it actually made me relax. I think what I found, which was when I write a lot of stuff, like if you're like, oh, Ingrid, I don't like that scene, it doesn't threaten me, but it was very weird when it was my story. And it was very weird when it was like, wait, we shouldn't put that here or that. But I had to sort of go, it's real and it's not, because it's theater. It's theatrical, so it's not totally accurate. I make up stuff and I do this to do that. But some things I had held on so personally to the meaning for me. And so that was a journey for me to sort of release that, And so, yeah.
And the hard part is often you have to cut something that you really liked.
That's right.
To kill your baby or whatever the phrase is.
Darling?
Kill your darling.
Darling. And if it's personal, it's adding a whole extra layer of ego attachment to the thing.
But I mean, I think if you're an artist at all, if I'm in the middle of the work is going to suffer. If the intention is in the middle of the meaning or the play itself. And in this, whether it's this piece or another piece, I'm always saying, what's going to make it most interesting? And the more I really got away from it and Ingrid wasn't in the middle anymore, I think it was just I was terrified to open my story up. It's not a pretty story. It's incredibly, it doesn't say, it's a lot of pain-filled, raw stuff that happened. And so I had to sort of release my own shame about my own story and realize the liberation for all of us is getting past that. So once I got over that, I thought, what if we make this gorgeous? What if we do some cool stuff with shoes and stuff like that? And literally we did. We had 120 pairs of shoes on stage.
And there were people that were a part of that story back in Jersey that came to the piece.
I think they were there. I think they were there the night I saw.
I probably so. Yeah. And there's nothing like live theater, and there's nothing like, it's amazing. It's very weird too, I have to say, psychologically. I lost my voice almost every time I've done this play. I started to lose my voice, and it was like a metaphor. I was in Canada and we had to cancel one of the 6 shows. I completely lost my voice.
I think that was somatic. I mean,
I think something. I'm not like that, but I do think when something is that, because outside I'm like, oh, that's fine. I can do this, no problem. The first time I couldn't stop coughing, and I had a coughing thing the whole time. The next time, and the third time it went okay. You know what I mean? But yeah.
The interesting thing about that one of the struggles in doing an original piece is if you're doing Shakespeare or Tennessee Williams or something, you're like, this isn't working, but they've been doing this play for hundreds of years.
Right.
In an original play, you're just tempted to give up. Maybe it's hard to toe that line.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know, I think, that whether or not you're on the right path, which is what you were saying earlier, when you were kind of constantly stepping out of it, and is what I'm saying interesting?
That to me is the question. Like,
yes.
How do you know when you get there and you assume that's you're going to know when you get there? How do you know?
Yeah.
And how does the director know? How does an artist know?
I was thinking
that's one thing
about
I've never
music
understood it
too. Like when you're writing songs, like how do you know when you're there?
That's a good question.
When I can't listen to it or work on it anymore, it will just drive me insane.
Right.
Yeah.
That is that's complicated, isn't it?
Yeah.
Art is never done. You just walk away from it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we said with painting, like I can't work on it anymore.
Yeah.
Did you turn to Popeye there for a second?
I need some spinach.
One of my favorite things, though, is saying it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love writing a song, and then I'll rewrite, and then I'll be like, "That's it, I'm good.
Yeah,
I did it. I got the."
You're done, but maybe the art.
Well,
isn't.
yeah,
Art will keep going.
I'm more the other way. I'll stop. And okay, it's done, but it's never done. If you visit later and it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's a new line that pops in or whatever.
Right.
That's kind of fun.
That's why I like to get rid of my paintings, because if I keep looking at them, I'm
You
not gonna
always
be
come
happy.
back and be like,
Well, that-
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also a mix of like, I feel the good thing about getting older and, being a teacher of playwriting.
wait a minute, there's good things about getting older?
Oh,
What?
there's so many good things.
Okay.
Oh, so many good things.
Let's list them.
On one hand.
Yeah.
Social Security.
I mean, going back to the other thing that I was saying, that there is a craft to it, and there's principles that I rely on that give me the confidence to make the call that this is getting where it should be. And so that has helped me, like, understanding when something's overwritten or underwritten, or I've said too much, or even just not being afraid to try it, cut something, it's, and so I think, but I think I remember, I'm going to bring up Julia Roberts when she won an Oscar one time. She said something exquisite about, I stand up here alone, but there's so many people behind me. And all of us making art, I mean, every play I write, it is because I've read it out loud to so many people. I've talked it through. I've read it through. I've let actors read it, directors read it. People say it works. Audiences hear it. And I love doing readings. And if you don't get a reaction, like, you have to test the stuff. And for me in playwriting, I get to test it in so many different ways. Like, you would test songs, I would guess, right? Or you have people look at your...
Yeah.
And so there's a moment I can tell it made the hit in the way I want the hit. You know what I mean? Like, if you write something funny and nobody's laughing, it's just not funny. And so I think...
Jay would argue with that fact.
No.
But you know exactly. Yes.
If you, it doesn't matter how funny your wife or your mother thinks it is.
That's
If
right.
you sell to an audience and they don't laugh, it's not funny.
Yeah. Right.
All right, so this is the problem, having two incredible guests. Hi, Ben. How you doing? I have a question for you now. So, I know that you're an actor because I saw you acting.
I saw you. I saw you do
you're a
it.
director because Ingrid just said that you're a director. How did you land in Harrisonburg?
Oh, I applied for a job at JMU. Yeah.
JMU snags another.
Was it between JMU and other schools?
No,
or
I
was
wish
it-
I could say that it was, but it wasn't.
You applied at one school.
I applied at hundreds of schools. But I was working in Boston for a long time as an actor and director, and then I went to grad school out in California. And then I was kind of floating around in Los Angeles and New York and, failing at a lot of things. And I was really at a point where I was like, I'd really like to work with young actors. Or I want to just shift out of this and sort of move into something that maybe looks more like arts administration. And so I actually had, So I was in New York and I was just applying to so many different opportunities around. And I had an opportunity up in Boston to work as at a youth theater in Boston. And then this job at JMU they invited me down for an interview. And I asked the job up in Boston if I could go down to the interview and if they would basically hold it for me while I figured out whether or not JMU was going to make an offer, and they said no. And so I just...
You're dead to us.
just decided to just come down here and see.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So would you say it was a risk? It was certainly a risk then.
Yeah, very.
To come down here.
And how many
That's
years
cool.
have you been here now?
It's my 10th.
Hey!
I know, it really flies by. It's really strange how time works.
It's a human construct.
That's right.
That's what I...
Yeah.
Dan Easley said that earlier this evening.
And it,
That's why
At some
between
point
New
I
York
said
and
that.
LA,
Not
I'm
sure when.
just interested, was there a theater that you got to perform in, or a space or something that you were in that stands out as well, if you're gonna remember anything I did, it would have been this. Or
In Boston, I was in a play called Some Men that was written by Terrence McNally, who's a really fantastic player. He passed away during COVID because of COVID. Some Men was about, so it was about gay, all the characters were gay men, and it was about their different characters and different relationships in each decade of the 20th century. And it was happening at the same time as gay marriage was going through the Massachusetts Supreme Court. And Terrence McNally would come up from New York with his husband to see the piece, and really it was at a company called Speakeasy, which is just a really solid regional theater company in Boston.
We'll put it in the notes.
Yeah.
Yes, I could put it in the notes.
Yeah. So I mean, that for me, that experience was just the best.
Ingrid, what's your favorite role besides one that you wrote for yourself?
What's my favorite role? This is going to be so funny. The first thing that comes, a lot of things come to mind, but like I started as an actor before I became a playwright, so that was my thing. But my favorite role was Helen Keller when I was in college. I mean, I think everyone.
This is at EMU?
When it was Eastern Mennonite College, because I was a social. EMC. I was a social work major because like I grew up where like the arts was not the thing, so I sort of. Somehow found my way, which is a sweet little journey. Followed my sister to Eastern Mennonite College. I didn't even know what Mennonites were, but I was cast.
Sorry, Jay.
I was cast in Helen Keller, and I just found like the liberation of being lost in a role. And it was the closing night. I guess the crew had climbed up into the catwalks, whatever, and when we went for our bow, they dropped rose petals on us. Oh, no. And I know, it was like the magic of theater at like 20 years old, and just like what happens to an audience and the energy and the sweetness of it made such an impression that it was like something in my heart and my mind just shifted about art,
you said, social work be damned.
That's right. I did. A year later, I did.
Oh, gotcha.
But yeah, I mean that I've had other roles, but that was the sweetest.
I rearranged my room and had that canvas with "Happy 50th Birthday, Jay" with all the signatures on it from when you and I were in Doubt. I guess it's like 16 years ago now.
Oh, dear Lord, I was so...
Wow.
I was the young priest at age 50.
Of course.
You were so good in
that. Makes sense.
You were so good. That was a good show.
That was a great show.
Oh, everybody was good.
No, that was an especially good show.
Actually, it was, really. That was so good.
Oh, cool.
Now, that brings up this next question. Is there a show that you were like, oh, man, this was it? Because sometimes you're involved in something and you're like... it's not the best, but sometimes
most of the time, 99% of the time, it's that way. Isn't it?
But sometimes you're like, oh man, the pieces have all really fallen together. This is a show.
Yeah.
Do you have one of those?
Oh yeah, I have a lot. I just find magic every single. I mean, I can tell like a life-chilling.
You're such an optimist.
I am. I'm an artistic optimist. I just believe the arts can save the world. It can change everything. I mean, I think I was an actor, and I was teaching acting. I taught at Eastern Mennonite University, and then I was at Clemson University. And somewhere along the way, I wanted to be a playwright. And one of the thing where the magic of all the meaning and everything was when I wrote a play called A Body in Motion, which was based on a book by Howard Zare about survivors of violent crimes. And I interviewed about 12, if you know Howard Zare, there is Jay Zare right here, and there's lots of Zares.
He's from the Illinois Zares theme. Not the more superior New York Zares.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad we discussed this.
He's the grandfather of restorative justice. He is a superhero across the world. And we became friends, and he wrote this book, and I interviewed like 12 people that were survivors of violent crime and wrote this play. In fact, Trent Wagler was in this play. And somehow we got a bunch of money to take it into prisons throughout the state of Pennsylvania and to take it into 11 communities. It was the collaboration with the Prison Society and the Victims Advocates of Pennsylvania. I'd never done anything like that. I'd never taken a play into prison. And this play like you're getting ready, you're getting checked in. It's a whole ordeal. And they sit you down. They're like, hey, here's the deal. So there'll be about this is Graterford Prison in Pennsylvania. There'll be about 500 prisoners. They're all come. But last week we had a musician here, and it started with 500, and there were 5 left by the end. So actors just get ready for everyone to walk out. And we're like, okay, great. So this play is really about transforming, and it's a collage play of different stories and how people get over things. And I just remember the world aligning, the stars, God, the universe, angels doing that play and getting a standing ovation at the end. And that play was hard for those male prisoners to sit through because it was about things that they had that they had done really to other people.
Wow.
And I remember looking at the actors, and they're just all weeping on stage and feeling like this is why we do theater.
Right.
Because it opened something in the heart. And then we had a conversation with this group, and it was, for all of us involved in that journey, it's kind of another, everything was perfect. And that was probably the most meaningful experience of doing theater in my life. I don't know if I can top that, but I think about it often.
Yeah, that's really good. And sometimes when me and Mike do bingo, we look at each other.
Yeah, it's
and we think,
when I co-host every week a game show, sometimes I weep inside. Never on the outside though.
Yeah, but you all are being funny right now. But that literally,
I don't think that's the highest compliment anyone has ever said to me.
But
you guys are being funny right now.
It's magic.
As opposed to before.
Like anytime you do even goofy magic.
Yeah.
Like today, like we kept looking at each other like it's so just getting people to be entertained and bringing energy.
You've built a subculture down here.
It's a cult.
It's taken 7 to 8 years.
Yeah,
We're not
right,
exactly sure how long we've been doing it, somewhere around there. But tonight was a good example of the crazy.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thanks for being here.
Oh,
We're not saving any lives, but maybe the world as a whole. Yes.
Stop it.
Well, okay. Now, we heard your story. How you got it? How did you get to Harrisonburg?
Oh, I mean, it's a few different ways I got to Harrisonburg. I went to college here.
There was a towel involved, wasn't there?
Yeah,
There's
well,
always a towel.
they sent my sister a towel in the Mennonites when they try to recruit you because of the foot washing, I think, and she was looking for
Wow.
my mother.
I didn't know that.
Isn't that
My very religious mother,
on brand.
Greta, was like, "This is the school." So she
Have you
came-
seen their towel?
I'm not kidding. We had that little EMC towel for a long time. Oh my God, what a metaphor.
Yeah.
And so my sister came here, and then I sort of followed her, and then not even, like I said, not knowing what Mennonites were, and then I left and went to graduate school. Then after graduate school, Barbara Graber, who was the theater professor here, was going on sabbatical and called me and said, "Hey, you're graduating next year, want to cover for a year?" And I really didn't. I went to get my MFA in acting. So I was identified as an actor there, and then she invited me here, and then I fell in love with teaching. And then I went to Clemson and did some other things, and then years later, I came back here for a year, and I was a guest artist at JMU, and then I got a full-time job at JMU. And so here I am. Yeah.
And Harrisonburg is so thankful that you landed here.
Oh, that's
Seriously,
so
that's awesome. And,
That's so
you too,
sweet.
Ben. I'm so glad. One of the things that I wanted to make sure I said before this podcast ends is something that Ben and Ingrid have done for me is they have made me and Mariana, my wife, feel very special. They invited us to their wedding, and we got to be the musicians
Amazing.
at their wedding. And it was awesome. They have the coolest bunch of friends. I mean, we're talking actors and actresses and just interesting people. And we went out to this gorgeous place in the middle of, well, it's kind of not. It's not actually not even that
So
far
we need to get this guest list then, and we need to invite them here to this.
Absolutely.
See, that's what we do is we interview interesting people.
Yeah.
See, haha.
We'll have to get the video feed for that one since they're good looking.
Oh yeah, right.
really.
You're right.
The thing that I appreciate, though, is that through no one knew me or Mariana there. We didn't know any. Well, we knew Trent. That was the first person we knew.
He was there.
But everyone knew us as the musicians. And it was really fun to be.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I'm so
Both
glad.
me and Mariana, we were laughing like we get to be musicians all weekend.
Even at a Dr. House show, he's usually not known as the musician.
You guys made us feel so good. And I just wanted to thank you for that. And in a public forum, why not?
That's
Seriously.
right. You're more than
That's what
musicians. You're more than just
Was
musicians.
that before
to
or
us.
after the tree fell on that?
Oh.
It was
Several years later. No, it was so sweet to have you there, actually.
It was great. It was great. And it was a beautiful wedding. And it's super cool.
Yeah, you get two theater people. We made people do games, meet
Yes.
each other. How
Yeah.
can you get a new friend by the end?
We should have had bingo, is what we should have had.
That's right.
no,
That would have been great.
Save it for the anniversary.
That's
right.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there's
right.
always that.
There you go.
And our dogs are friends, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Masha and Nellie.
That's right.
Yeah, I feel like the friendship really solidified when we built the gate between the two fences of our yard.
That's
And the
right.
gate, really, it's for the dogs.
right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very
it was
good.
like, they have a great backyard.
Yeah.
Ingrid is a tree planter, to say the least. And
So eventually her trees can fall in your yard.
it's coming.
That's the plan. That's the
Circle.
It's revenge.
And when I get the call, Ingrid, are you paying for this? Oh,
No, let's look up some Virginia laws.
God goes both ways.
Right, but trees take about 30 years to grow, as you know. Anyway.
So Chris has a golden retriever. I just want to have the mental picture of these two dogs who are friends. What kind of dog? is she?
Masha's a standard poodle.
Oh my goodness.
She's a princess. Yes,
Oh my
she is.
goodness.
It is.
She's also a rabbit killer.
She is. She is a murderer. She's killed 6 rabbits. Like a cat, she's left them at the back door now. I
Aw,
think
that's
Ben
sweet.
caught her. I think it all started with the death of like 4 bunnies, probably, that were squished.
That was
and
a dark day.
That was a dark night. It was the
Poodles are hunting dogs.
They are. Yeah. I mean, I was worried with my vet. I said, is this okay for my standard poodle? Because is this a bad thing to keep the hunter alive? And she was so tickled that there was a standard poodle killing animals. She had the same, like, they're hunters from Germany. Yeah.
I should also say, though, so when our dogs run in the backyard,
Oh, God.
Masha is the fastest dog.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And Nellie's like, I can run fast. And then Masha's just
Yeah,
laughing
no,
Nellie.
yeah.
Nellie's like a 7-year-old golden retriever at this point.
And Masha's like 6 feet tall.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And those poodles also just kind of jump. They like
They
have
do.
lightness to
They
them.
do.
Golden retrievers are not good athletes. They're just
They
compared
galump.
to a poodle.
Yeah, they just kind of galump across the
They're
yard.
just designed to go, find things and bring them back, right?
Yeah.
As she runs around, I sit in the chair. You know what I mean? I watch.
It's a great life.
It's a good life. It's a good life in the
Well,
hills.
hey, that's a perfect way to end the episode. It is a great life. Thank you guys for joining us. I super appreciate it. We super appreciate it.
This is lovely.
Yeah, I'm glad you could join us. That's
What a
awesome.
treat. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
And thanks so much to our sponsor, Ruby's Arcade, in
Absolutely.
the historic Wine Brothers building in downtown
This is it.
Harrisonburg, where you can
Historic.
witness and participate in the entertainment
Let's call it
extravaganza.
art. Let's
that
call
is,
it art.
Let's call
feel
it
free.
art.
Every Tuesday at 7:30 here in Harrisonburg. And thanks to Balthazar Gracian, the 17th century Spanish Jesuit priest, for his art of worldly wisdom.
And his tiny, tiny books.
All right, good night.
Good night.
Bingo is Life, a post-bingo Harrisonburg podcast, is brought to you by the Brothers How to Show and our friends at Ruby's Arcade in downtown Harrisonburg, Virginia. If you've enjoyed the show and feel it's worth spreading a little joy in this world, please tell just one person that you like this podcast. Word of mouth, more than any other form of promotion, is how creative works get noticed and sustain themselves. Thank you, Andrew Hickey, for that bit of wisdom, and thank you, listeners, for being part of the fun.